Howdy, and welcome back to the podcast. We have an amazing guest today who apparently plays lots of roller derby and rugby, lots of experiences in these places, but is also a nutrition coach. And so we're here to learn all sorts of things about what to find in a nutrition coach whenever I am looking for one, and then maybe some things to expect when working with one. All right, so hi. Ms. Candi, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, I'm excited to learn all sorts of things about being a nutrition coach, what that looks like, and then I guess your experience in the health and fitness journey. So I guess I'd like to start there. What prompted you to join or to start on your own?
On my own, and well, my fitness journey for me personally started about 2 years after I had my son. I was looking for something to get back in shape, looking for something to be active. I was a stay-at-home mom. So I asked around a couple friends, like, hey, what do you guys recommend? And CrossFit at that time had just started. So I checked out a local CrossFit gym and I was hooked. I loved it. I loved the way it made me feel. I used to do weightlifting in college, so it was kind of tapping back into that. But that's where that started. And then once I started getting stronger, of course, I wanted to fine tune my nutrition. So that led me to work with some nutritionists, and eventually, long story short, I ended up getting my certification in coaching, becoming a coach, and then getting certified in nutrition coaching as well to be able to further help my clients in their journeys.
Very nice. That's a really concise and beautiful, presentation of your journey. I would say, there's a lot of people that are going to go all over the place.
That's the short version. That's as short as I can make it.
Well, that was very concise, and I appreciate it. So we started with the CrossFit world, and then how does your experience from CrossFit then versus now? Because you're still in the gym, you're still doing CrossFit stuff, so it's been fulfilling in some sort of ways for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It hasn't really changed much as far as the workouts, the intensity. Obviously, I've gained strength. I've seen a difference in me personally, mentally, physically, everything. It's affected my entire life. But as far as the CrossFit experience itself, it's always been one of a great community, an encouraging community, a supporting community, and that's what's kept me there.
It can definitely be a very supportive community. I've found there's a lot of really good people around, and it's really nice to be around other people. Yeah. I think we had Debbie on a couple days ago, which will be, I guess, if you guys are watching this now, a week ago. And she talked a lot about sharing pain with the people that you're doing a session with or a training session with.
Yeah.
Can you relate with that as well? Is that kind of the same idea?
Yeah, 100%. There have been some times where in the middle of a workout, I just break down in tears. Because it's a physical release, it's an emotional release, it's a mental release. And sometimes you'll see somebody during a workout where, they may be defeated in life and they're getting defeated in the gym in that moment, and it's just all coming crashing down on them. And all it takes is everybody in that room going, you can do it, you got this. Or somebody goes and takes that last run with them or does those last set of burpees with them, and it carries them through. So yeah, I definitely experienced that, sharing the pain moments.
Dude, I think about that. I'm like, man, how many times have I been at a really down spot in my life? And because I was in the gym with some good people, I was like, I guess I'll do this next squat, even though I really don't want to do this next squat, or I'll do this. My background is more in the powerlifting world, but even when I was doing more CrossFit style stuff, definitely in the middle of a row where I just didn't want to do this stupid damn row. And it was like, well, it's an EMOM and the ticker goes and everybody around you is doing the same thing. It's like, all right, well, I guess this is what we're doing right now. Yeah. And even though there's a pain associated with it, you feel good afterwards, and there's good people around you to kind of encourage you to keep on going.
There's never been a workout that I regret doing. There's never. I may have amnesia and forget about it. I may be traumatized from it, but I will never regret doing a hard workout that makes me sweat. I
love that. That's clip it. Yeah. That's gorgeous. That's perfect. I've never done a workout that I regretted doing, right? Oh, that's so true. Again, on so many levels of just hey, I showed up and I moved today. I did something for myself. I may hit a new PR, or I made steps in a new technique. There's so many wins that you can have inside of the gym. There's so many highlights to look back on and why you're doing what you're doing.
Facts.
So why nutrition?
Why nutrition? When I was going through my level 1 certification as a coach, there was a master's athlete running the seminar, or part of the seminar. And the one thing I asked her, I said, you know what, I feel like I've hit a plateau. As an older athlete, because I started later in life, I said, as an older athlete, what advice can you give me to be a better CrossFit athlete? She said, lock in your nutrition, get your nutrition dialed in. I was like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, I eat,
Yeah.
I eat healthy, but I'd never really done or dabbled in nutrition. I'd never had macros programmed for me. I'd never been, I had probably done at that point in my life every fad diet there was to do. I had done the 14-day diet, the Mediterranean diet, there's one where it's like you eat this cabbage soup for 7 days.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah. Lost weight, but I done every fad diet, pill, everything there was throughout my 20s and early 30s. So asking this athlete, this professional athlete, like, what do I need to do? And when she said lock in your nutrition, I was like, okay, it's time to take this seriously if I want to excel. So I started working with a nutritionist, and it was the first time I had been told, okay, you need to eat this many grams of protein, you need to eat this many grams of carbs, and this many grams of fat. And at that point in my life, I thought carbs were the enemy. I was one of those that was afraid, like thought bread and pasta was bad, and only, indulged them in when I knew I could, if I was going to do a hard workout, or I would do carb loading. So that's really the only time I would eat carbs. So he had me on a prescription where he kind of weaned me into carbs, because I told him, I was like, I'm terrified of carbs. Like, I don't want to eat a lot of carbs. I don't want to get bulky. I don't want to do this. And when we were done, I think I did a 3-month program with him. And by that 3rd month, I was eating almost 300 grams of carbs a day.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, because I was working out 2 times a day, because I would do CrossFit in the morning, and at that point I had roller derby practice in the evening. So he's like, you need this to fuel yourself, to give you the energy. And then everything just kind of clicked. And so then I wanted to learn more about nutrition. Like, okay, this worked for me. I know that carbs aren't the enemy. Like, food is fuel, and you can still eat what you want and enjoy foods. Like, I don't like the thought of being on a diet, because to me, diet sounds restrictive. I just like to change my way of eating. So it showed me a completely new way of eating that could fuel my body for what I needed to do, for the strength that I needed, for the muscle that I wanted to grow. And it was a win-win for me. And I thought, I need to help people do this.
So many people perceive diets to be, or like that they have to be on a diet, right? That's the only option that I need to like go down, which is, I think, rather unfortunate, because there's a lifestyle, right? These things are ultimately fuel. I need protein to make sure that I keep my muscle mass, or I can grow muscle mass, or I need carbohydrates to literally fuel my tissue to do the things I'm asking it to do. And then like my fats are good for like my hormones and for my skin and my, like all of these things that they're like necessary functions for. But it's for whatever reason just not appreciated. I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought about it. I did Weight Watchers, and when they had that point system.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting, because there were times where I would get to the end of my day and I'd go, oh my God, I got like 32 points left, or something ridiculous. And I would look at a bag of like chocolate covered caramel corn, and I was, oh, this fits my points.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the greatest way of eating, but it was effective. So that system literally had what most people consider a caloric deficit, which is also, it works just as well. But if you have a goal, if you're an athlete, macros is the best way to go, as far as, achieving, if you're trying to do a body recomposition, if you're trying to gain muscle, burn fat. It's not just all about calories in, calories out. The protein matters.
It definitely, I mean, the breakdown of what those calories are coming from matters.
Absolutely.
And so you start, what does it look like when we start working with a client initially? Now you have all this background, you have this perspective. Somebody comes to you initially. What does that intake process look like for you?
It really depends on where they're at. And sometimes they come from a place like myself, never having done any type of food portioning or weighing and measuring or scaling at all. They just kind of eat intuitively, or just eat what they like, or go with all the low-cal, fat-free, sugar-free options, and they're in a caloric deficit. So they may be losing weight that way, but they're not getting stronger. They're not getting faster. They're not feeling better. So basically, the first thing I do is I say, okay, show me what you do. I just want to see how you eat. Like, just like pretend I'm not in the room. Like, just eat what you're going to eat. Do what you do on your daily thing. Log it. I need to see. So seeing where they're at and figuring out where they're at, and 99.9999% of the time, people are not eating enough. They're not getting enough. they're in a deficit that doesn't let them lose weight, but it puts their body into starvation mode. So the first thing is convincing them you're going to have to eat more. And that's the same thing that happened to me. I was told, you're not eating enough. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not eating enough? I'm eating 3 meals a day. I have snacks. They're like, you're in way too much of a deficit. You're not going to lose weight. You're definitely not going to build muscle. You're going to stay where you're at. So once I started eating more, not being afraid of food, all of a sudden I started building muscle and losing weight. So it was, so seeing where they're at, figuring that out. Are they in that starvation mode? Are they in too much of a deficit? Sometimes you just got to bring them to a maintenance just to get them comfortable with eating more food, then put them into a little deficit so they can actually lose weight or whatever their goal is, if they want to build, if they want to bulk. So, but to get them to a level playing field from where they're currently at, that's where it starts.
I would imagine there's a lot of pushback in that first kind of like couple weeks or even a month or a couple months.
Sometimes it's like 2 months of pushback.
Yeah. I would imagine that's really hard to get someone to realize, okay, and then to also really feel what it feels like to eat X amount of calories per day or X amount of like protein, carbs, this breakdown of macros at the end of the day. How do you handle pushback?
Very, very gently. I have my moments. If they're going to keep doing what they're doing, then I just have that, talk with them, like, you're paying me for this service. Either you're going to heed my advice or you can just keep doing what you're doing. Like, I'm not going to bang my head against a brick wall telling somebody something that is going to work. It's going to be better for them, but they're just too afraid to do it. Like, why did you come to me in the first place? Why are we here? Like, let me help you. Just try it. I say, just, hit these numbers for a week. Hit these numbers for 1 week. See how you feel. See what happens with your body. And when I get them to that point, that's when that light bulb moment happens. When they go, I've been hitting my macros every day. I've been hitting my protein goals every day. I hit it, even if it's only 3 days in a row, that 3 days of hitting their numbers consistently can show them what they want to see. And then they go, oh, you're right. This does work. I'm full. It's like too much food. And I've gone through that myself. When I had somebody program macros for me, I'm eating and I'm at the end of the day and I'm like, I don't have room for anything else. This is way more food than I'm used to eating. But building it up, because I don't expect anybody to go from 0 to 60. Like, I don't expect somebody to go from getting on average 60 to 70 grams of protein a day, and now I'm telling them they need to get in 180. Where does it come from? They're either going to be drinking it or supplementing it some way. I like them to have food. Like, do it with food. It's okay to have protein shakes. It's okay to have protein bars, but I want a majority, at least 60% of your protein source to come from actual food. So getting them to eat that much, that's where the struggle lies. But once they can do that and build up to that, and they start seeing the results that they want, the results that they signed up for, and that's when it hits them, and that's when they're like, okay, I get it. And sometimes that takes 2 weeks, sometimes it takes 2 months.
I would imagine it would take a large majority of people 2 months, right? Mm-hmm. I would imagine that it would be rather difficult for people to really grasp, like, no, you do have to eat. Like, nutrition, like, if you can't feel your body during a session, then you're not gonna be able to expand as much as you're looking to expand. You're not looking to build as much as you're looking to build. And so if we can't build lead muscle mass, then we're gonna ultimately hurting our resting energy expenditure. And then, like, now we are having to work extra hard just to try to, like, keep up with what we're trying to force ourselves to do, and then we're not eating, which again sounds so counterintuitive. But I mean, it's science. It's the reality of life.
Yeah.
So you have a new client. You do an intro to see where they're at for the first couple months, and then you kind of like educate, kind of build onto a specific macro calorie. Do you have a specific macro breakdown that you like to kind of go with?
Basing it on their level of activity, their lifestyle, where they're currently at. Like I said, I like to see how they're eating for a couple of days. Where they're currently at, because I don't want it to be too drastic of a change. So like I said, if somebody is only getting in 50 to 60 grams of protein a day, but eventually I want to get them up to 180, 160, somewhere around there, I'm going to say, let's try to hit 100 consistently for a week. Let's get at least 100 and then build from there. So, yeah, just getting them started it's like baby steps. I don't want to not overstimulate. Trying to think of the right word.
Give too much information.
Yeah.
Overwhelm.
Overwhelm. Thank you. Yeah. Overwhelm. I don't want to overwhelm anybody because it can be overwhelming. It absolutely can be overwhelming. And I've had clients that just shut down. Like they are just completely they are used to eating the same thing day in, day out. And they're afraid to change it because they think if I change it, I'm going to gain weight because this has been keeping me at the weight I'm at. I don't want to add anything to it. So that's a whole nother struggle in itself. Like I said, it's sometimes there are mental factors that a nutrition counselor or coach or nutritionist or anybody can't fix. Like they have to be able to work through that. So sometimes that process is me literally just holding their hand, baby steps, getting them to where they need to be, to where they finally realize that it's okay.
Is it hard? Do you see that it's harder for some individuals to hit goals that are maybe in specific, like, or if we're vegan or if we're carnivore or if we fit into one of these categories, is it harder to hit these number goals or not so much?
It depends because there's no perfect way of eating. There's no, it's not the carnivore diet isn't the best, the paleo diet isn't the best, the keto diet. None of them are the best. It's whatever works for you and your lifestyle. Whatever works for you and your body, like how you process things. Not everybody processes things the same way. A lot of people have intolerances. I have an intolerance to soy. So when I tried the paleo diet for the first time, I did a Whole30, which completely eliminated soy and dairy. And within that 30 days, I noticed health differences. I felt better. I wasn't congested every morning. And so I did that Whole30. And when I slowly put foods back in, first time I had soy, I woke up the next morning feeling like I had an elephant sitting on my chest. The congestion came back. And I realized through process of elimination, okay, I need to find a way of eating that avoids soy products, soybean oil, soybeans. Yeah. So I can tell if I've had something out at a restaurant where they've used any type of soy in it. I can't have soy sauce. I do coconut aminos. So working with somebody that has been doing like maybe a vegan diet or vegetarian or carnivore or whatever, if that's not working for them, I'm going to have a conversation with, okay, you've been doing this for how long and you're not getting the results. Maybe you need to make a little change. And it's that, again, it's baby steps leading them into something else that might work better.
Man, it seems like such a long, arduous process. I'd rather be a strength coach all day rather than being a nutrition coach.
Yeah.
It's just because, you need it to live.
I feel like I'm not just a nutrition coach, but I'm a bit of a counselor as well. There's a little counseling in there as well. So it's because if I try to help, I'm like, help me, help you, help me, help you. Let me help you, help me, help you. and so, yeah, it can be tough, especially, like I said, when you have somebody that's been doing something for X amount of time, whether it be 5 years, 10 years, a year, they're like, hey, I got turned on to this diet. Somebody told me this was the best way to eat. Okay, well, it might have been the best way for the person that told you, but it might not necessarily be the best way for you. So just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But if you've been doing it and you saw results in the beginning, but now you're stuck, now you're not seeing results and you're not feeling that great, it's time to reconsider some other options.
I did an elimination diet a couple years ago, several years ago now, and I didn't realize how allergic to lactose I was, or how lactose intolerant I was. I remember I felt great. Things were moving great for me. I was eliminated everything. I got super lean. I felt really clear-headed. And then I started reintroducing items. And one of the first, I love cheese. I love cheese.
Who doesn't?
So much. And Parmesan cheese is the best. And then I introduced the cheese. And I think I had dairy with a dessert. Okay. And it was an ice cream or something like that. And I couldn't think clearly. I couldn't
brain fog?
Yeah, I had immediate brain fog.
Wow.
It was wild. I couldn't think. I couldn't speak. I was like, I don't think my body likes
You're
dairy
like a dairy coma.
at all. Seriously, like I had such a hard time coming up with any words,
Wow.
and it was from like 1-2 scoops, and then I'm
That
like,
fast.
I don't know, where do I pay the bill? Like, how does this work? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, how do I operate a car? It was insane.
Oh,
but
wow.
if you don't have like those, like if you're not committed to like really understanding like what's going on, I would imagine that it's a really tough process. But like the benefits over that hump, and like you realize all these things, and now you can live with a clearer head. You can operate better. You can feel better waking up. You're less gassy. You're more XYZ, whatever you're experiencing, just from like a commitment of like, let's say 3 months, 6 months of like really diving down deep into what's going on. Like the benefits are massive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
and if you can get people to see that, once they get a little glimmer of it, just like when they have that moment, like I said, it's the light bulb moments. When that light bulb goes off, when they realize, wait, I do feel better. I am getting better rest. I'm not getting winded going up that flight of stairs. I'm not, I'm clear headed. Like you said, that brain fog that happens. Once they get to that point and they can experience that, that's when it all sinks in. And that's when they go, okay, yeah, I got to make a change. Something's got to give.
Do you do any testing at all, like allergy tests, or like there's some other like things that your body likes, or I forget what they're called, but like there's all these tests for like your microbiome and stuff like that. Do you do any of that kind of stuff?
That's not something that I've really delved into, like as far as on the nutrition side of it. Of course, I always ask clients, do you have any known food allergies, like, or intolerances, things like that? A lot of people have foods they just don't like. Like, I don't like this, I don't like that. Okay, cool. We'll work around it. But as far as like any type of testing, I would just use an elimination diet. Yeah, just going, because like some people, you got to eliminate grains. Some people you got to eliminate lactose, dairy. Some people you got to eliminate soy. It's pretty easy when it comes to food to figure out what works and what doesn't, because it's just based on how you feel. You get the biofeedback from your client, and you work with that.
But I want to go out and eat. Candi, what do I do? Yeah.
What do? You make good choices. You make the best choices you can. Yeah. A big part of being on, again, I don't like the word diet, but a new way of eating, finding the way of eating that works best for you. If you're going out, if I go out, I know the restaurant. If they're online, I look at the menu ahead of time, so I don't get there and get overwhelmed and wonder like, at this point, I know what I like. I know what I can have, what I should avoid, and I will ask, I'll avoid dishes with any type of teriyaki or any type of Asian marinades, because I know it's going to have soy sauce in it. So I'll just go through the menu, especially because I love sushi. I just don't have it with soy sauce. I don't eat edamame, but I'll eat the sushi as long as it doesn't have any soy, any type of sauces on it that I know contain soy. So it's just about knowing what you need to avoid and doing your best to avoid it.
You make it sound so easy.
It really is. It really.
I didn't really struggle with food until after I stopped competing. Like when I was competing, it was like, oh, well, you eat carbs to train, you eat protein. Like it was just so direct. And so I feel like having a goal is probably like the best thing. If I want to get strong, it's like, well, I need this amount of carbs and this amount of protein so I can get strong. But if I'm just like, I just want to eat healthy, I feel like that'd make it a little bit more difficult. Do you help people set goals?
As far as like a goal for like a training or a goal for, so if you're training for something and you're like, I need to bulk, I need to do this, or I want to get this PR, or I need to increase my muscle mass by this, absolutely, it can be tailored to meet that goal. Most of my clients are, I want to lose weight. I want to be healthier. I want to be able to play with my kids. I want to be able to be more active. I want to get off the couch. That's where they're at. I work more with the average just person that, works a 9 to 5 or graveyard here in Vegas. And they just want to be healthier. They just want to make better food choices and find a way of eating that they can sustain and that they can be successful at. And once you get to a certain point, you get comfortable at a weight. You have that set point where your weight's going to fluctuate 5 to 10 pounds any given week, month, day. Mine fluctuates within a 5-pound window, sometimes a 10-pound window, depending on how active I am. So it's getting them to a point through that, learning that new way to eat. Once they get to a certain certain point, we put them in maintenance mode, which means they're not gaining, they're not losing, they're fluctuating within that 5 to 10 pound window. And that's where it's easy to stay. Once you get to that, it's easy to stay there. The hard part is getting there. But once you get there and you have that new way of eating and you can maintain it, you're not so worried about the protein. You're not so worried about the carbs because you've been doing it for so long. You know, it becomes intuitive and you really don't need to go off macros because you know, all right, I eat about this much protein a day. I have, oh man, you're going to feel it when you eat too many carbs. You're definitely going to feel it.
Oh yeah.
You're going to feel it when you eat too much fat. It's going to slow you down. You're going to feel a little sluggish, a little full, but it's going to come right back to where you were. So it's just about reaching that comfort point.
I remember I used to fluctuate like 10 to 15 pounds in a night when I was competing.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Water weight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, and not intentional. I would just go to sleep and then maybe go to the restroom in the morning or like the night before, go to the league. And then in the morning I'd go again. And it was like 10 to 12 to 15 pounds dropped like daily. And then I would recover that throughout the day, have a lot of water, eat, drink, whatever. And then finally at the end of the day, we're like, man, I'm heavy today. Yeah. And then wake up the next morning and like, oh no, like we're still within our weight class. Like we're good. And I think the first couple of times, like, this is insane. This isn't real. But like the body really does hold on to water the way it needs to.
The first time I experienced that was in high school. I was on the wrestling team and I was 5 pounds over at the weigh-in.
Damn.
5 pounds over. And I had about an hour and a half to get it off.
Whew.
Running, sweating, spitting, pissing. That's how I got it off. And guess what? I made weight.
There you go.
In 90 minutes, I dropped 5 pounds.
Don't do that.
Not recommended. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. Don't do that. Yeah. I was like 17 years old. Not recommended for anybody over the age of 25.
Yeah. They say, I remember going to this like research platform place that we went to, this guy that does research on urine and dehydration. And he said for every like 1% decrease in hydration, you have like a 10 to 12 decrease in performance. But what we saw, like anecdotally, like you're working around athletes, you're a wrestler, like we saw a lot of people that would dehydrate themselves, or like these fighters that go fight, the next day or whatever it is. I would go drop 10, 15, 20 pounds in a day to go compete for my weight class, sit in the sauna. I used to sit in the attic because we didn't have a sauna from South Texas. And so I would put trash bags on. I would go upstairs in the attic and just sit there for as long as I could. Or we would go into restrooms, like turn on the hot water and like shove to create a steam room, but we would still be able to perform. Like we're still setting PRs. And so like, I mean, even though hydration is definitely like, sure, the research says that like anecdotally, I don't know that that's not like necessarily true. Do you focus a lot on hydration with a lot of clients or not really?
I do, because not a lot of people get as much as they need or that they think they're getting. So when I give people a water intake goal, ideally, depending on their weight and height, because you can have too much water.
Yes.
You absolutely can have too much. Because I've known somebody that got she called it water poisoning. Because she was doing the 75 hard, and she's all of 4 foot something, and I don't remember her weight, but she was less than, I want to say maybe she was like 105 pounds. So for her to drink a gallon of water a day, she did it and she just got sick.
Rough.
So hydration wise, I tell people, track your water. I just want to see how much you drink in a day. Most people are like, I only had like 32 ounces of water today.
Not enough.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, you got to double that, at least double it. I try to start everybody out between 60 to 80, like get 60 to 80 ounces in. Once you get that consistently, then we're going to go to 123 ounces a day. Yeah.
And then if you're training, like even
easy.
more, like, I mean, I am the worst. I drink a lot of caffeine. And so even then you have to take in caffeine into account. So if I'm having caffeine and it's a diuretic, I need to be drinking even more water. We definitely, I think most people probably need more water in their lives. They'll be happier campers.
Definitely easy to get here in the summer.
Yeah.
I have one of those big gallon jug containers that I take with me to rugby practices during the summer. I will empty it. In one practice, I will drink a gallon of water.
Rough.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Are you a salty sweater?
No.
Cool. Good.
No. Yeah. So the electrolyte powders and drinks and everything, somebody told me that if you drink it and it tastes too salty for you, that means you're adequately hydrated. Every time I drink one of those things, it's like a mouthful of salt water for me.
Huh.
Yeah. So I never use like the electrolytes or anything because it just tastes like salt water to me.
I love them.
I drink a lot of water.
I'm very
Salty
dehydrated.
sweater.
Oh, dude. I am a salty sweater. So a good way to find out if you're a salty sweater, if you guys ever want to know, if you wear like a hat or something like that, or your clothes, you'll usually see like the white marks afterwards.
I know people that do though.
Yeah.
I have a friend who is an extremely salty sweater. Like it'll like crust on his forehead. Yeah, it's bad. I'm like, what is that white stuff all over your face? Yeah, no, I don't get that. So I can say not a salty sweater.
Salty sweaters are more prone to heat stroke. And so making sure that if you are a salty sweater, you're having lots of water, lots of electrolytes during your session, which is why Gatorade, it was designed specifically for that. And
it's synthesized sweat.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. It has a little bit of carbs.
That's why I can't drink it. I have, but every time I drink it, I just think I'm drinking synthetic sweat.
It's kind of gross.
A little bit.
I'll never drink the white flavor again.
Nope. I like the red or the blue.
Blue's, I think, the best.
Yeah. Light blue or dark blue?
I'm probably a dark blue guy.
Dark blue. I like the dark blue. Yeah. I love that we call it colors and not flavors. Like, so give me a red Gatorade. What flavor is it though? I don't know. Just get me a red one.
Cherry probably?
No. It's like fruit punch or I don't know.
That's how much we know.
I have no idea. Now I'm gonna have to Google it. I'm gonna have to know the Gatorade flavors now.
I won't remember them. It's fine. So we work on hydration. We work on carbohydrates. It sounds like we got a lot of good stuff overall for the overall client. What is your ideal length of time for goal setting? I know that's kind of a hard question because it depends on the individual's goal. Like you want to lose 100 pounds versus 20 pounds. Those are very different timelines. But generally speaking, what is kind of like your goal working with somebody? How long would you like to stick with them?
A minimum is 12 weeks. That's a good. It's enough time to break habits and to form new ones. Like a month, I can give them a guideline. And if they're good at self-motivating, good at self-accountability, you give a client macros and they know, okay, I got to do this, and they hold themselves accountable and can do it, a month, and they're good. They might need to check in every once in a while, maybe do a follow-up maybe 6 months later if they feel like they've hit a plateau. But for the most part, I always encourage clients, give me at least 12 weeks. 12 weeks to walk you through the process, to get you comfortable to where now you feel confident going out on your own. You feel confident going out to restaurants. You feel confident going to parties, that you're not going to throw away 12 weeks of work and just undo it all. Yeah.
I have two more specific questions around diet and health. And the nutrition side of stuff. So have you ever fired a client? And if so, why?
I have.
Why?
Why? Because they did not listen to anything I said, no matter how many times I said it. This client wanted to do everything but what I was telling them to do. And in that, I mean, I'd say, okay, do you want to do macros or do you want to do calories? I was trying to make them comfortable. They had never done macros before. It was completely new to them. They did not like doing meal prep. They didn't want to prep food. They blamed everything on their partner bringing snacks in the house. Like, well, they keep bringing this stuff in and I keep eating it. Okay, well, you need some self-control. Yeah. Then at one point, they were like, I want to do intermittent fasting. Okay, here's your time window. So I would get a call from them at around 9 o'clock at night, and it was during a fasting window. Shouldn't be having anything. And I'm on the phone with them, and I hear them chewing. What are you eating? Oh, it's just a rice cake. That's it. Okay, your fasting window starts when you're done with that. So what time is it now? Now you don't get to eat until 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. It's just a rice cake. It's called a fast, and you just broke it. And then I'm gonna go out for drinks, but I'm only gonna have a tonic water. That's breaking your fast. It's just tonic water. It's affecting your metabolism.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't. So it was a constant battle. And then they only wanted to eat eggs. I'm like, okay, you need to get this much protein in. Okay, I'm just going to eat like a dozen eggs a day.
Wild.
Why? Don't do that to me.
That's insanity.
And so it got to the point I was doing the food prep for them. I was making the meals for them.
Wow.
In addition to telling them, okay, I'm making these. You're getting breakfasts and lunches from me. You're responsible for your dinner. And then it was just damage. So we were making 0 gains, 0 losses. They were staying right where they started. They had a little bit of weight loss, and then it would come back. And then a little bit of weight loss, and it would come back. It was this yo-yo because it would be good for a day and then throw it all away over the weekend. So it got to a point where I was just banging my head against the table so hard. I said, I can't do this anymore. You're not heeding my advice. You want to do what you want to do. You're not following the programming. You're wasting my time. You're wasting your money. We're done. Yeah. So
I think it's important to fire clients at times.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it can be such a drain on the coach that it will take away from all of the other calls, sessions,
it's exhausting.
events that you have with other clients.
Mm-hmm.
And that one client can like really put a bad taste in your mouth. So like your attitude for the rest of the day really is
Mm-hmm.
not as good as it should be. And it's just because this person isn't taking like accountability for what's going on. And it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
But it definitely happens. So, but I think like firing clients is definitely like, I think as long as you have like really good reason, like you've really like worked it out, you've tried, had a lot of communication, you maybe consulted with some other people, like how do I work around this?
Yeah.
And if you still can't come to something, it's like, hey, maybe we're just not a good fit. And like you'll find a better coach and somebody else that you kind of jive with, that you listen to, maybe at a different time in your life. Like I think it's important to know when to walk away.
Yeah. And that person did and eventually have another coach who did more workouts with her than the nutrition. Because like I said, with the nutrition, I want to do intermittent fasting. And he's like, okay, do that. But then there was no accountability there. He's just like, if that's what you want to do, then do that. So I was like, I couldn't do that with her. I was like, no, if you're paying me to do this, let me help you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just going to let you run free in the candy store. Not going to just let you do what you want to do. You hired me for a reason. If you just want to do what you want to do, you don't need me. So, yeah. So she's still, here we are a year later, and she's still at the same weight.
Damn.
Yeah. So
That's rough. That's rough. How does someone incorporate alcohol into their diet if they really want to drink?
Ooh, calories. They count. Yeah. I tell people, me personally, I'm not a big drinker, rarely socially, even that. But I tell people I'd rather eat my calories than drink them. You know, if anything, I'm going for like a lighter option. Now with all the seltzers that they have, no carb, no sugar, I'll go for one of those. They're like 110 calories, but they're not really affecting my macros too intensely. So I'd go that route. I'm a whiskey gal. I love a good whiskey. So nice. I'll enjoy one of those every once in a while. But it's one of those things where if I'm working with somebody that is like not alcoholic level, but if they're like, you know, weekend social, have maybe a glass of wine with dinner or drink with dinner every once in a while, just try to get them to cut down. Just be consciously aware of the consumption and make substitutions.
There are so many substitutions now, like an insane amount.
Yeah.
I am more recently sober, and it has,
Congratulations.
I think, thanks. It's been wild. It's been like, there's so many options out there that I can use, but I've been able to keep off like a consistent 10 to 15 pounds that I would normally like consistently stay at, just from this one calorie source that I was constantly consuming. And then I don't feel so terrible in the mornings and all these other things, but I was also drinking a lot more than your normal individual. And so there's also like a fine line there. Right? But it does increase estrogen. And so we're going to increase overall retention of fatty tissue, just kind of the way that it goes. So I think, I love drinking, but at the same time, not good for you.
Yeah. If it's something that you love, like I love gummy worms, gummy bears, gummy candy. Like I love gummy candy, and I would eat it all the time. But when I realized how much that was impacting my carbs, I just enjoy them in moderation. Like every once in a while, I can still enjoy it. But if it was something like eliminating alcohol from your diet, especially if it comes to like the mental clarity, the bloating, the water retention, things like that, all the effects that alcohol can have on your body. if you realize I'm better off without this and you can live without it, like I can live without alcohol. I could go right now and say, I'll never have another drop for the rest of my life and be okay with that. I don't need it. It's nice, but I know that the benefits would outweigh the moment of pleasure that I get from getting that little head buzz.
Yeah. I'm an extremist kind of guy, man. I wish I could. I just like, I like to do things or not do them at all. And so like either if I tell myself I'm going to drink again, then I'm going to drink all the time. Like that's going to be my jam. I love a good like Manhattan or like a New York sour. I love a New York sour. I mean, you could just go on for days.
We'll stop talking about it. I don't want you to go home and be like, oh man, okay. I can go for an espresso martini right now.
Espresso martini, a Vesper martini. Hey man, like we could have some fun. A last word, if you guys like last words, I love green chartreuse. I like that there's a history behind all these different cocktails, and that was kind of the fun for me as well. And so getting like really down into the dirty, like where did this come from? Why did it exist? Who started creating cocktails? Going to visit these locations, and so then ultimately just supplementing that with something else. It's like, okay, well, I don't do that anymore, but you know what I can do is I can have a lot of podcasts, or I can train more clients, and so just like filling it with something else is a little bit like also fun, or food, right? Like I get to like fill that with food now. So there's a healthy alternative.
There's always healthy alternatives. I used to be a smoker. I was up to a pack a day at one point in my life. And when I realized I would get winded just going up one flight of stairs in my house, something's got to give. I can't do this. And so it was that finding that I went through a lot of toothpicks because for me it was like an oral fixation, just the boredom of, whatever. I didn't do any nicotine patches, gum, or anything like that. And I always tell my friends that struggle with quit, even vaping. Like I'm like, so many people like quit cigarettes and start vaping, and the vaping is just as bad, if not worse.
I think it's worse, and I vape now, and it's like the hardest habit to break.
It's so I'll tell you what worked for me, and because I do have a client right now that is currently vaping, and I'm trying to get them to cut down. And I said, how many puffs do you take on that thing a day? Because sometimes I see.
Do you want to know? Oh my God!
Do you know? Do you know how many?
Too many. What the fuck?
And that's what they said. They're like, I don't know. I just do it. So it's like I sleep with my vape in my hand. I'm like, for real? What do you do? It's just like I just I'll wake up in the middle of the night and just have a puff and go, what?
Crazy.
How? So I said, okay. So here's how we're figuring it out. Because every cartridge has a certain number of puffs in it. So I said, I want you to just have one cartridge, because they would have like 3 or 4 laying around, one in the car, one in the, just do one. I want to know how long it lasts you from the start, right on it with a Sharpie, when you started it and when you finished it. We're going to average out the daily puffs. Because for me, when I was smoking, what I did is I know that I would have one when I woke up in the morning, 2 on my way into work, 1 on my break, 1 on lunch, 1 at my other break, 2 on my way home, 1 after dinner, 1 before bed. I knew when I had those. I had them at the same time every day. So every week I cut out one of them. I just got rid of one until I was down to 1 cigarette a day.
Damn.
1 cigarette a day. I did that for 1 week. And it got to a point where I got to the end of my day and I was like, I didn't have my cigarette today. I guess I'm done. And that was it. I was done.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a really nice, that's the ideal,
weaning yourself off. Yeah. I mean, it's just like with anything, with medication, with breastfeeding, you wean off. You don't just stop cold turkey. There's, you can substitute, bottle for breast, do that, but then you got to wean off the bottle. So I weaned myself off of cigarettes by eliminating 1 each week.
Well, I just recently, there was a deal, 2 for $40 vapes, right on Windmill. Nah, just kidding. I don't know where it is. but it was right down the street. And I was like, well, I guess I have 2 now. And so I would be, I think, kind of scared to see how many, if I average it out, how many puffs per day.
Yeah.
Because I feel like at that point, it'd probably be better for me to just smoke a cigarette than it is probably like huff on this because you can do this anywhere, right? You can do it inside, you can do it outside, and it's still not healthy. It's not good for my lungs. No. But I am definitely like an all or So either I got to quit it all entirely, or I just
Yeah, I've never seen anybody puff on a vape like they do a cigarette. Like you have a cigarette and it's burning, you smoke it while it's burning, because vapes like I think that's the good thing about them. Like you just put it in your pocket. 20 minutes later, put it in your pocket. You can't do that with a cigarette. I was at a club and there was a guy at a table about your distance from me, and he was puffing on this thing like it was a cigarette, and it was the longest cigarette ever. I'm like, bro, seriously? Well, like, why? I'm like, it's not meant for that. It's not meant for you to just continually drag on it. And I just sitting there, literally this guy would take a hit like every 20, 30 seconds. Yeah. Nonstop.
Hi, my name's Ben.
No, was that you? It was you, wasn't it?
It could have been me, 100%. So shifting gears a little bit, because I am interested. This is personally interested, and so if you guys have stuck around, that's awesome. Ayahuasca experiences.
Ayahuasca, yeah.
What prompted your initial let me go ahead and try this wild shit to doing it multiple times?
So I went through a bit of a depression. It affected a lot of things in my life, work, friends, family, everything, finances, all of that. And I was looking for clarity. Therapy didn't help. I'd done EMDR therapy. I'd been going to a psychiatrist twice a week, and just nothing was pulling me out of this. And so I had looked into alternative therapies. I'd looked into psilocybins. I'd looked into a couple other things, and ayahuasca. I was looking at retreats in Costa Rica. I was like, I'm going to have to start saving up some serious coin because those trips are not inexpensive. Luckily, I came across a tribe here in Las Vegas and went to a ceremony. It's been almost a year ago. It was October 30th last year. It was my first ceremony. And it was life-changing. Yeah, life-changing. Like, when I tell people all of that darkness that was in the back of my mind, all of those things that were just keeping me in that depression, I would literally I would get up and do what I had to do. I was what they call it, functional depression. So I would go to work. I would work with my clients. But then if I wasn't doing one of those two things or taking care of my son, I was asleep. I would just curl up and do nothing. That was my downtime. If I wasn't working, I was sleeping. That's it. After my first ayahuasca journey, a switch was flipped. All of that darkness, because I remember moments where I couldn't remember a day that I didn't cry. Every day, something, a commercial, seeing something, anything would trigger it, just waterworks instantly. I'd hear a song on the radio, waterworks. And after my first ayahuasca journey, the week after, I'm driving to work and I go, I haven't cried in a week. Not at all. And then I realized all of those thoughts that I had in the back of my mind, all of those thoughts you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you'll never be successful, all that negativity, gone. And that's when everything, my life literally just did a 180. Yeah.
Did you see there's some internal changes. Mm-hmm. Did you see external changes happen as well?
Yes. Yeah.
What were they?
For me, it was a light was turned on. How you walk into a room and it's lit, it's illuminated. You can see what's around the room, but you can't really see into the dark corners. Somebody turned on a floodlight. I just became so acutely aware of everything going on around me, almost to a point where I was overly aware. Why are you people not seeing this? How are you not seeing this? What is going on? I noticed more people in that fog, in that haze, in that dimness. And here I am in the bright, in the light. I can see all this stuff happening. Why are you guys not seeing this? You don't see that? You don't realize this? How do you not realize this?
What do you mean by this and see that? And what does that mean?
Just being observant of things going on around you in the world, like little things, like just people. Have you ever? I mean, you could. A friend of mine posted a video on his Instagram story the other day, and he was at like a slime workshop with his daughter, and he took a video. Every parent in there was just sitting there, either just staring off into nothingness or into their device, not in the moment, not they're experiencing that with their kids. Like, you take your kid to this place to have this experience, and then you're going to sit there and stare at your phone. What are you doing? Experience it with them. Be in the moment. So it made me more in the moment of everything, like being able to look at everything going on around me and taking it all in. And then also noticing the people that were walking around like zombies, that were in that fog, in that haze, and not seeing what's going on around them, not experiencing what's going on around them.
I think that psychedelics have an aggressive like light that they can shine on things. And I've definitely had my fair share of experience with a lot of psychedelics in my life. And I think that there are some times where I get out of that experience and I'm like, whoa, this is like a lot. Like, I don't know what to do with myself now. And then I've got others where I'm like, I just feel so at peace and so like present and alive and current, if you will. And I've had both of the experiences on. I've never had ayahuasca, even though like the more people talk about it, the more I hear about it, the more I would like to try it. But I've also mainly on like the psilocybin and LSD worlds. LSD is a whole different, I think, world. But so you tried it the first time, and then you did it more times after that. Why?
Yes. So it's not a psychedelic. The ayahuasca is not a psychedelic. It's more like I would describe it as a waking dream. It's that if you kind of that moment where you're not asleep, but you're not awake, and you experience things, you have these awakenings, revelations, understandings of things. So every experience that I had was different. And one of the things that everybody's afraid of, and I'm sure you've heard about it, is the purging.
Yeah.
I didn't have a purge until my 6th ceremony. I never purged. Yeah, my 6th, 7th, and 8th ceremony. Those are the only 3 times I ever had a purge, like a physical purge. My first ceremony, the purge was crying, laughing. Like, everybody purges in different ways. It can come out in just guttural groans, screams, cries, things like that. But my first experience was, it showed me my future, but it wasn't showing me my future. I was remembering it. It was a memory, but it was my future. So it was a very surreal experience.
Interesting.
So yeah, because when you think about something, like when you have a dream about something, you have a dream about it, but do you remember smells, sounds, temperatures? Like, as if you had been there and experienced it?
Yes.
You do?
I do.
Yeah. So you have those type of like very realistic dreams?
I can remember everything. I can feel Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
I can still, to this day, I can recall those sensations.
Yeah.
Like, most people can't, and I realize that. I share that with people, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
But yes, I can.
Yeah. So that was the first time I'd ever experienced that, where I'm like, this is the future, but it feels like a memory. Like, it's not, I'm older, but it's a memory. I remember it. How do I remember it? I remember that feeling. I remember the wind. I remember that day. I remember that smell, the surroundings, the air, all of it. And it was very surreal. And it helped me get out a lot of stuff and work through a lot of stuff that I hadn't been able to break through with therapy. My second, I want to say the 2nd, 3rd, 4th ceremony, because sometimes it's a 1-day ceremony. Sometimes they do 2-day ceremonies. One of the ceremonies I went through taught me, I was having trouble meditating. A lot of people, that's where their struggle is. They can't meditate. They can't tune things out. Because when you're doing these ceremonies, you're in a room with 20, 15, 20 other people. And everybody's having their own little ayahuasca journey. Everybody's having their own little thing going on, and some people are louder than others. So there was a ceremony where every little thing was pulling me out of my experience. Every little thing was distracting me. Like, the minute I'd be like, okay, I'm here, I'm in the medicine, and then somebody would make a sound, I'd be like, shut up. Why are you so loud? I wanted to get up and punch people. I was so angry. I was just filled with I was laying there just frustrated. And at one point, just something came over me. They're like, calm. You just need to you got to learn how to tune it out. You got to learn how to shut it out. And that was night one of a 2-night ceremony. So on that second night, the same noises were happening, but somehow I was able to focus enough and just tune it all out. And it was a totally different experience for me. So every journey, every experience, every ceremony, you're never going to have the same one twice. You're always going to learn something different about yourself or discover something that you needed to learn or that you needed to let go. So that's the reason I did the multiple ceremonies, because you can do it just once. It's not for everybody. I've known people that have done one ceremony and they're like, yeah, I'm good. That was too much. That was intense. I won't do that again. Like they had a horrible purge or something, it was just not a good experience for them. But for me, the medicine just kept calling me back like, no, we're not done. Come back. Yeah. And that's what it is. Like they say, like the medicine will call you. It'll say like, hey, come try this. You've got to let go of some stuff. You've got to process some stuff that you're not doing on your own. And we're going to help you do it. And it does. They say 5 hours is like 5 years of therapy. Yeah. And it's true. It really is.
Damn.
Yeah.
It sounds like a very fun experience, like fun in like the fact that it teaches me something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested, but at the same time, I think that I would be a little concerned that it would be so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And like, okay, now what do I do with all this?
Yeah, it can be.
Not so worried about like the after, even though I am a little, I should clarify, I am a little bit worried about the after just because I've done so many things. Like, okay, what damage have I now done to my brain? Like I gotta extend this life out a while. I'm still pretty young. And so I don't know, like maybe in the future, but I have some hesitations around it. It sounds like a really like eye-opening experience, but have I had enough eye-opening experiences? I feel like I've had a lot. So like where is this balance, right? What is too much?
Yeah.
So is that like a conversation that's happened like whenever you start like entering a ceremony, like what does that ceremony really like look like from start to end?
It's so the start of the ceremony is you get the spiel about what's going to happen. And some of it's funny, some of it's scary. And a lot of people go in there. Like I went into it by myself. I had found this tribe and I thought, okay, I'm going to go to this strange person's studio with a bunch of people I don't know. And I'm about to be under the influence of a medicine that I don't know what's going to happen. Like it was a big leap of faith for me. Like I was terrified. I'm like, what if I have a bad reaction? What if I get sick? What if somebody next to me like there were so many things, but the person running the ceremonies, so well versed in it, so experienced in it. And it was out of all of the things that people think can go wrong, like it was a good experience. I felt completely safe. I felt completely taken care of. They have guardians at the ceremonies. And these guardians, they go around and they're there for you. So if you need to get up and go, they help you get up and go. If you need to be held, they're going to hold you. If you need to scream and cry, they're going to let you scream and cry. And it's just, I've never, aside from that one time where I just couldn't focus, I've never had a bad experience. I've seen people have very bad experiences because they say that sometimes you feel like you're dying. That's scary. Nobody wants to go through that. That's terrifying, right? You might feel like you're dying. Just know that you're not. Like you can say that. But if you feel like you're dying, you're gonna freak out. You're gonna lose your shit. So there was a ceremony once where there was somebody there that she kept screaming that she was dying. And everybody in that room, everybody was like, you're okay. Let it go. Just let go. Like whatever you feel like you're holding on to, let it go. And once she was able to do that, the screaming stopped.
I definitely had experiences where I felt like I was dying. And I think I remember having people around me that was like, remember, like if you really, really need to, go back inside your head and just tell yourself, this is just the drugs. It's going to be okay. Everything's fine. Lay down if you need to lay down. And then sure enough, like that'll kind of do away with it. But in the moment, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what's happening? This is intense. Like, what do I do? And you really do feel like you're like about to lose your fucking mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a mild experience like that where I thought, this is it. This is it. This is how I go. That's wow. Okay. Yeah. And it was the moment where I just was okay with it. Like, you know what? I've had a good run. I'm okay with it. Like, I know my kid's going to be taken care of. I know, like, you know, finances are somewhat in order. Like, I'm not my problem anymore.
Yeah. There you go.
Like,
that's for sure.
Hey, you know, if it's my time, it's my time. And once I accepted that, that's when everything just changed. So it's like getting over that fear of, I think it can help a lot of people that have PTSD, a lot of trauma, the fear and just being able to let it go. Like sometimes the fear is what keeps people holding on to something so hard. And so going through those journeys, going through that medicine and going through that process, it can help you just let it go. And you're able to move forward and move on and grow and actually like heal from the trauma. Those 8 ceremonies for me, the amount of healing that I did in there, just like I said, life-changing. Life-changing. Yeah.
I like it.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
There you go. You heard it here first. No, probably not first.
Yeah.
At this point. Beautiful. Well, any words of advice for people either starting off on their health fitness journey or on their, you know, like trying to like live a healthier life overall? Any of those things that you'd like to give a little piece of advice for? If
you're going to hire a coach, listen to your coach.
Facts.
They're trying to help you. Let them help you. It's a lot of trust. You got to trust the person that you're working with. I like to build a rapport with my clients. They trust me. They know that I've been where they're at. And that's a big part of it. They know that I'm not just telling them, hey, do this and you'll get this result because I've always looked this way. No, I haven't. I used to be 230 pounds. I've worked. I know the struggle of fighting with nutrition and fighting to lose weight and fighting to get stronger. I've been there. So being able to identify with my clients, you know, find a coach that you feel comfortable with. Find a coach that can understand and identify with you and know your struggle, because I think that's a big part of being able to trust the process, knowing that the person who's leading you through that process really, truly understands how hard it is.
Beautiful. Thank you. Love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.